I think you're on mute, Ted.
Figure after all these months and years that figure that out. You guys haven't had a ton of success in Philly over the years. Do you guys, is that something that's mentioned or talked about much at all?
No, it's not. It's not. There's not much to talk about, and it's in the past. I mean, like first off, it's been a few years since we've been here. Obviously with last year and everything. But in the end, we got to go play a good hockey game tonight. And both teams are coming off break. What team can get to their game the quickest, and so that'll be the key here tonight. But it's a hard building. It's a momentum building. I don't. Obviously they haven't had the year that they wanted, but they're still a good hockey team, and it's still a really hard place to play.
What do you find that's most difficult to come back? Is it the timing? I wouldn't, maybe conditioning. I don't know. I mean, what's difficult for the guys to come back from this type of break?
Probably a little bit of everything. I certainly think sometimes timing. I think sometimes just the habits within your system, so that you're playing as a 5-man unit without thinking. Probably some of it's a little bit conditioning. Now it's nice for us. We play a game and then we have a few days between games. So it's not like we're playing, back to back right out of this. So it's probably a little bit of everything. I thought we had a solid practice yesterday. Hopefully with the skate this morning, we're going to hit the ground running.
Last one, were you able to see Franzi's penalty shot goal in the Olympics?
No, I did not. No.
I had a nice penalty shot goal.
Picture.
Yeah, it was good. Thanks for this, Jeff.
Yep.
Hey, Blash, sort of an off-the-wall question, which me all about. The Philly fans are legendary. Do you have any story about how the Philly fans have treated you, or why it's tough to play there?
I don't have anything personal. I never, and nothing really ever happened to me personally on that. There's no doubt that they're a great fan base. They're extremely passionate. They can obviously be extremely hard on both the home and the visiting team, so it's I think they deserve their reputation in a positive way. For me, the passion's outstanding, and makes it a real hard place to play.
Thank you.
Yeah.
St. James.
Jeff, just kind of an abstract question here. With young players, I mean, you have rookies young players in Sider and Raymond who've really excelled. But with young players, how difficult is it if they struggle a little bit? Kind of how much leash do you give them, especially guys who are important to the rebuild? Not specific to those two, but just kind of in general. You've had a lot of high-end picks come in over the years.
Well, I think there's a balance. There's a balance certainly between confidence and letting guys play through mistakes and learning the correct habits, the winning habits long term. And there's always a balance there. Certainly, one of the ways to correct habits is to make sure you either tell them, there's some type of consequence, whether it's through verbal, whether it's through video, whether it's through ice time. That's how you can correct habits. But at the same time, you have the opportunity for that player to lose confidence. I think anytime you're hearing things that you're doing wrong, or you're seeing things you're doing wrong, or you don't, garner enough ice time, your confidence starts to slip. And so, there's a balance from a coaching staff to kind of balance those two things. You can't allow a player just to play and continue with habits that aren't winning habits. But you got to be respectful of what it does to players' confidence when they get taught. Now, I think part of the maturation process of players is, I think they start off lots of times. Young players are defensive, and I think ultimately as they go through time, the best players end up taking coaching in. And then doing what they think is right. They don't take coaching in and go on the ice and say, what does coach want me to do? They take the coaching in, they listen, they learn, they go on the ice, they do what they think is right. They come back and they listen and they learn, and they don't get defensive about it. And I think that's what the best players ultimately do. But there is a balance there for sure, Helene.
Is it harder when a player is picked, the higher he's picked? Because obviously, they come in with, there's a reason they get picked that high usually.
Yeah, they've usually had a lot of success, and there's lots of hype around players the higher they're picked, and I think a lot of times that's unfair. But I understand why it happens. Not blaming anybody. It's just the reality that every player, regardless of where you're picked, being drafted, regardless of what spot it is, just being drafted is one way for teams to acquire assets, basically. And there's multiple ways to do that, including free agency and some guys that aren't drafted out of junior college or Europe. So it's really just a way to acquire assets. And then once you are within the system, you have to prove that you are worthy of the draft pick per se, or that you're somebody who can help the team win. And so is it hard? Yeah, it's hard for some of those guys with lots of hype, and they at times you have to work past that and just say, okay, here's where I am today, and here's what I need to get better, and that's really should be the only focus.
Great. And did Troy Stetcher make the trip, or what's his?
No, anybody that wasn't going to play tonight, meaning those injured guys, didn't make the trip. We left them back at home.
So no Letty either.
Correct.
Correct. Okay. Thanks, Jeff.
Yep.
Max Boltman.
Hey, Jeff, just a quick follow-up on Zadina yesterday. I know you talked about him going to the net on that Larkin line. Is there any other kind of differences in how you want to see him play with Larkin and Raymond compared to maybe the role he'd had with Rasmussen and Ernie there?
I wouldn't say differences, and I don't think going to the net is specific to the Larkin line. I think, ultimately, for him to have success in on that line, he's going to have to play great defensively. Larkin generally, garners pretty good players that he plays against. So, when you make mistakes defensively against the good players, it costs you more at times. You got to play great defensively, including the management of the puck. He's going to have to make sure he's going to the net hard. But that's just in general. I think that's going to help his game. He's got to play with confidence, and then he's going to have to play fast. The one thing the Larkins line is obviously Larks is a really fast player. And so, if there was one major difference between certain lines, it's that you got to make sure that you're thinking fast, that you're playing fast, that you're going north-south more than you're going east-west.
Thanks.
Yep.
Regner.
Hi, Jeff. I might be overthinking this too much, but you have 6 games in the next 18 days. And I'm wondering, and Ansar brought this up yesterday, about getting Thomas Greiss up to like game speed, so to speak, and making sure that Alex stays sharp too. Is this going to be a kind of a delicate balance for you to, a couple games are close together, but if a guy isn't playing one game, he could be off for another full week.
I think it's always a balance, and in terms of deciding, especially at the goaltending position, who's playing. You certainly have plan, and then there's also watching guys and how good they play. So, we'll take it. We have a thought process and a plan, but we'll also take it day by day here, starting with tonight.
But essentially, you have to get Greiss into a game pretty soon, I would imagine.
Again, I'm focused on the game tonight, Art. So, we'll see. We'll see where everything takes us. Greiss going to be a big piece of our second half. I don't think there's any doubt. To what degree, I don't know. But I know, when he gets opportunities to play, we need him to play great. Just like when Alex gets opportunities to play, we need him to play great. And if they're both playing great, that's better for us. And ultimately, we're not going to play one goalie for the 30-plus games we have left. We're going to play 2 goalies, and we're going to need both of them when they're in there to play as great as possible.
Great. Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Adam Kimmelman.
Yeah. Hi, Jeff. Just going back to about Zadina for a minute. Just curious what you liked about watching him on the top line and how him moving up to that spot next to Larkin and Raymond sort of has a trickle-down effect on the rest of the lineup for tonight.
Well, I'd start with the trickle-down effect, to be honest with you. One of the reasons that we made the move was I'm putting Vladdy back on a line with Rasmussen and Adam Ernie, where they've had some good chemistry at different times through the year. They've been a really good line with us at different times through the year. They've gone on the road and been able to play against anybody, and I think that's important. So, really the thought process behind the move wasn't necessarily getting Zadina up in that top line or getting anybody else up in that top line. It was more, let's start with trying to put that Rasmussen line back together, and then who's the best fit. And to start, we thought we'd try Zadina and give him an opportunity there. There's other guys that could certainly go up there, and we'll see how it goes. This isn't necessarily, I'm not committed to anything long term. If Larkin's line starts suffering, I might put Vladdy back up there, and that wouldn't just be on Z. It would just, if the line chemistry isn't quite there. So we'll see. In the end, if Zadina plays his best hockey, He's a skilled player who can play fast, who can score goals, and can be good defensively. He's got to do all those things to be successful on that line.
Thanks, Jeff.
Mhm.
That's it for us this morning. Thanks, everyone.